Online shopping is easy and convenient, and the Gun Dealio smartphone app makes it inexpensive, too. Deals on guns, ammunition, holsters, optics, lasers, and more, available day and night. Load the Gun Dealio Apple or Android app today at gundealio.com.
All right, saddle up. Get ready. Strap it on. We're going to be having some fun today. We're going to be talking about guns because, this is Gun Talk. I'm Tom Gresham. I'm the host here. We've been doing Gun Talk for, holy cow, more than 25 years. The first national radio show about guns and gun rights. The first podcast about guns and gun rights. The largest of all of those as well. Been doing it a long time, and we'll keep doing it as long as they'll let us. We're going to be talking today about, teaching people to shoot. We got all these first-time gun owners. So we'll be talking about that. We've got a guy who taught right at 2,000 women to shoot in one weekend. Holy cow, unbelievable. We'll also talk about getting kids involved in shooting. But the reality is, what everybody wants to talk about, what everybody has been talking about, is what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse. We all know the story. We all know parts of the story. We don't know all the parts of the story. But people have been talking about this all over the country. The synopsis, the short version, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse goes to Kenosha, Wisconsin on the third night of the riots from the domestic terrorists. There's no other way to describe what's going on. It is domestic terrorism, where people look for an opportunity to go burn, commit arson, to loot, to commit grand theft, to hurt people. You have people who are predisposed to extreme violence, and they look for these opportunities. Now, the question that we haven't answered yet, and I'm hoping that some law enforcement folks will get into this, is who's financing this? We know that they're busing people in. Who's paying for that? Are they flying people in? Are they putting people up in hotels? I think possibly so. But we do know that buses are being used to bring people into the protests/riots. Where's that money coming from? Part of the bigger picture that nobody seems to be talking about much because they're so focused on the immediate action. And of course, that's what we got to talk about. Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, you know the story. You've seen the videos. And this may be the most videoed, the most documented triple shooting that we've ever seen. 17-year-old Rittenhouse shoots 3 people with his AR-15 rifle. 2 of them he shoots dead, DRT, dead right there. The other one, you've seen the video, you've seen the pictures, gets shot in the bicep, blows it up. So what's your take on that? People are all over the place on this. Was it self-defense? Yes, of course it was. But it's so much more than that. Yes, of course it was self-defense. But this falls squarely in the category of yes, but. The yes, but category. But there are other factors involved, a lot of other factors. The other thing I'm going to suggest, and I'm going to talk about this a good bit right now. The other thing I'm going to suggest is you put aside everything that you think you know about this. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of intentional misleading information out there from both sides. Okay? 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse comes from Illinois to Wisconsin, has his AR. Don't know how he got there. Some reports say his mother drove him. I don't know if that's true. There's a lot that we think we know that I think we're going to end up finding out may not be quite exactly correct. Was it legal for a 17-year-old to have a rifle in Wisconsin? Well, yes and no. It all depends. Depends on which statute you read. There are conflicting statutes in Wisconsin, conflicting laws. The legislature did a horrible job of writing the laws about that. That will end up coming up as well. So I want to talk about that, and I also want to tell you there are some takeaways for each of us. There are some things we can learn from this. There are actually some tactical things, some gear, equipment things we can learn from this. Using an AR-15 for self-defense, if you get into that situation. Also, I'll certainly take your calls, your comments. If you have some thoughts about this, you can join us right here, 866-TALK-GUN. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I really want to get down deep into my thoughts about Kyle Rittenhouse and what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Discover the unbridled power of the FN 509 Compact Tactical. From its 24-round mag and cold hammer forged stainless steel barrel to our patented low-profile optics mounting system and fully ambidextrous controls, it's simply hard to beat. And you know what they say, if you can't beat it, you may as well carry it. The FN 509 Compact Tactical. Carry the future from the innovators behind the world's most battle-proven firearms. Visit fnamerica.com to learn more.
Are you looking for a place to shoot? The National Shooting Sports Foundation has a great website called wheretoshoot.org. It's the largest database of shooting ranges on the internet. It's also a great resource for shooters where you can find video tips, printable targets, and a lot more. Find it online at wheretoshoot.org. And while you're there, download their free iPhone app. That's wheretoshoot.org.
In 2020, Brownells continues its tribute to Eugene Stoner, the legendary designer of the AR-15, AR-180, and more. The What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifle answers the question of what Stoner would have done with modern lightweight materials. Inspired by another Stoner design, Brownells BRN 180 lower receivers help complete firearms optimized for folding stocks or pistol braces. Visit Brownells.com today and pay tribute to one of America's greatest firearm engineers.
Hi, welcome back. 866-TALK-GUN, or call me at Tom Talk Gun. That's Tom, me. I'm Tom Gresham. It's called Gun Talk. Glad you could be here. Before I get into a little bit more detail about the Kyle Rittenhouse shootings, plural, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, let's talk with Alex on line 4 out of Lexington, Kentucky. Hello, Alex. You got a range report for us?
Hey, Tom, I do.
Okay,
I have a range report for the HK SP5,
okay,
MPX, and Kalashnikov USA KP9.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of bitten by the PCC bug a few years ago with the MPX, and HK releasing the SP5. That kind of made everything snowball.
Okay, so you spent a bunch of money and bought some guns.
Maybe. I do not admit or deny that.
Okay. So what's your take as you compare these? What do you like? What do you don't like?
Well, they're completely different animals, suppressed and unsuppressed. Suppressed is what I like.
Right.
It helps bring new shooters. It's just more pleasant. The MPX is a dream, unsuppressed. But being my first pistol caliber carbine, that was the first one that I suppressed. Gives you tons of gas to the face. Yes. Tons. Especially if you're mag dumping. While the SP5, almost none. But the trigger, by comparison, is pretty awful. I hate to say that as an HK fanboy, but it just doesn't compete. It's not in the same wheelhouse.
Okay. If you had to settle on one, which one would it be?
Probably for fun, just the MP5 because of what it is. You know, it's an iconic gun. There's tons of aftermarket for it. Everyone loves it. Everyone who even isn't into guns knows what it is. And being the real deal is, yeah, exactly. And it's kind of not necessarily the pinnacle of a collection, but it's something that you look for to kind of top it off. Also, Fleming Sears being available for it, if you ever come into that kind of money, is kind of awesome.
There you go. Look, I got to run. I appreciate the range report, sir, but I want to talk about this Kyle Rittenhouse story. Real quickly, I'm going to get Charles in here for just a minute here. Line 5 out of Reno. Hey, Charles, your take on the Kyle Rittenhouse story before I give my impressions.
Well, sir, as you know, it's a very complicated situation. I truly believe that this young kid is a hero. I understand the whole thing. You know, everybody's trying to say that this kid was out there instigating. I look at the kid's background. I feel that is so far from the truth that, you know, this kid was out there just trying to do right, and everything that he did was in self-defense. You know as well as I do that they've been able to track all the firing he was fired at initially before he ever fired. His life was threatened on several occasions. In my opinion, this kid had God by his side when this whole thing took place, because I mean, a 17-year-old kid going through that gauntlet, not shooting any innocent bystanders and coming out the way he did. You know, this was a God-inspired thing, in my opinion. That might be over the top to some people, but I think this kid, what he did, woke up America. I think some of the things that happened in Portland last night with this prayer patriot being stalked and murdered in the street is going to, BLM's in trouble, man. Patriots are going to come out. I don't want this country to resort to civil war, but it's coming. And we can't sit by as Americans and just be silent and allow this to happen to our country. You can say what you want to say about Trump. You can say what you want to say about Biden, but this is deeper. If Trump wins, we're going into civil war, Tom. And I think that that. They are not going to stop if Trump wins.
Wait. And if Biden wins?
Republicans aren't like that, Tom. Republicans love this country. We are not going to riot if Biden wins. If Trump wins, the other side is going to continue what they're doing. BLM is sitting with billions of dollars right now. They're quiet. Why are they so quiet? They're waiting to see what happens in the election, and then they're going to take that money and they're going to come out and they're going to set this country on fire, Tom.
And I'll tell you, I don't worry about BLM. It's Antifa. Two different groups. Antifa, I think, basically infiltrates the BLM protest. It's Antifa. You got to understand there's two different groups at work here. Charles, I appreciate the call. Let me give my thoughts on this. One of the things Charles said is looking at the background of Rittenhouse, Kyle Rittenhouse. The guy has basically grown up in a cop world. I believe his father is a police officer. Part of the auxiliary unit for cops, trained, had medical training. He wants to be a good guy. He shows up at this thing because he thinks he can help protect some of these buildings, these businesses that are being burned. Businesses that have nothing to do with the whole thing. People are looking for an outlet for extreme violence. If you look at the three people who Kyle Rittenhouse shot, all of them have criminal records. The first one description I read, which I thought it was actually pretty accurate and revealing, is he is prison hardened. He was there to commit violence on someone. Charles mentioned, he said that Rittenhouse was fired at. I don't know that that's true. I do know, we're pretty sure at this point that a shot was fired before Rittenhouse shot. We'll throw this thought out. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I linked to it on Twitter, where you should be following me. I am at Gun Talk on Twitter. So I just put all the information there. It's where I can put the links. It's easy. But if you find the article on ar15.com, it's long, very detailed. It appears that there were two agitators in the crowd, and one of them simply stuck a handgun up in the air and fired up in the air. I think probably just to kick off the fireworks, just to get people all riled up and make things happen. Probably, in my view, paid agitators, a man and a woman, two people. Rittenhouse gets chased. No, they did not throw a Molotov cocktail at him, but they threw something at him, probably a brick in a bag, a plastic bag, which is weird. And then chased him and chased him and chased him. And then finally, Rittenhouse being chased, pursued. He's trying to get away. He's running. He turns around and shoots this guy. Rittenhouse fires 4 shots. Understand, Rittenhouse has 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse has an AR-15. One of the important, and I've talked about this before, but I'm not sure it really made an impression, but I want you to think about this. It probably saved his life, the fact that he had a sling on his AR-15. Well, what do you mean, Tom? How does a sling save your life? I feel certain he would have had the rifle taken away from him because he was wrestling for his rifle at one point. People trying to yank it away from him. And because he had the sling on him, because he had it slung correctly and properly, he was able to retain possession of his gun and use it to save his life. If you do not have a sling on your self-defense carbine or shotgun, you need to this week get serious about getting one. I'm not talking about a hunting rifle sling. I'm talking about a tactical sling, not a single point. I'm not a fan of single points. Just me, but I don't like them. First guy tries to assault him. Rittenhouse shoots him. Rittenhouse then escapes from that situation and then is running, trying to get to the police. He gets chased down by what appears to be at least a dozen people. Four of them actually try to assault him. One guy kicks him in the head. Another guy takes a skateboard and tries to tomahawk him in the back of the head. He actually hits him in the back of the head while Rittenhouse is on the ground sitting. He's in a sitting position. That is assault with a deadly weapon. Rittenhouse shoots him, center punches him, DRT, dead right there. By the way, rifles hit harder than pistols. Another guy, right after that, immediately after that, comes up and shoves a pistol into Rittenhouse, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse's face. And what I think we're reading is that this guy is a prohibited person. He can't legally have a pistol. Oh, but yeah, gee whiz, they're criminals in the midst of the riots, in the war zone. Big surprise. So he pulls his pistol out, points it at Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse, I guess, points his gun at him. He kind of backs off for just a moment. It's almost like a feint, like he's going to go away, and then turns back around, possibly to shoot Rittenhouse. Doesn't really matter. Rittenhouse shoots him, hits him in the bicep. What's interesting, you see the pictures, and you see the guy with the upper part of his arm basically blown away, still holding on to his pistol with that hand. The point to be made here, how often have we said, just because you shoot somebody doesn't mean they stop. Just because you shoot somebody in the arm or in the hand doesn't mean they drop their gun. Rittenhouse actually maintained trigger finger control. You see in a lot of the still shots, the screen grabs. He's got a finger straight along the side of the action while he's moving. He shot only the people who were attacking him and no one else. He may have shown more restraint than most people would have when the fellow with the gun, the last fellow, pointed the gun at him and Rittenhouse shot him and he didn't drop the gun. Most people, including almost all police officers, would have continued to shoot him because he was still in the fight, actually. Rittenhouse did not do that. Then he tried to give himself up to the police. The police wouldn't have any of that. So finally, unable to give himself up to the police, at least that's what it looks like. Understand that all we're doing is working with what we have right now. So he goes home and then turns himself into the police. There, I think, is what happened. At this point, he's sitting in jail. And you got to wonder, is he examining the wisdom of going to a riot, choosing to attend a riot where there are violent felons with guns? Because you want to protect somebody's property. 2 people are dead, 1 shot. Kyle Rittenhouse is in jail. His life will be changed forever. Everybody's going to know his name. He's been charged with first-degree murder. Probably that won't hold up. I'm hopeful, I personally hope, that he doesn't accept a plea bargain, that he gets an exceptionally good attorney. GoFundMe shut down the fundraising effort to try to get him money for defense. I think he will be able to get good representation. It will take that. It will take a year, 2 years, who knows how long to go through this process. And even at the end of that, at a certain point, he's going to start wondering, was this all worth it? Okay. Lessons to be learned. Well, if invited to a gunfight, you might want to decline. And when you insert yourself into a war zone, warlike things can happen. He was exceptionally lucky that nobody killed him because they were trying to. One report said that the guy who got shot in the arm says his only regret is he didn't kill Kyle. All three people he shot had criminal records. Don't know how many other people there did, but what I guess you could say is that people with violent criminal records were violent. They were exercising extreme violence. They were there to be violent. That's why they went there. And then in Portland, we just had a Trump supporter killed last night. 90 days of rioting in Portland. And now today, after this latest shooting, the governor says, well, this must stop. Really? You've had 90 days of this. And you've been unwilling to call out the National Guard to stop it. So each of us has to look at this to figure out what our takeaway is. Personally, as I always say, rule number one is don't be there. I think putting yourself in the middle of that could be called foolish. Some will say it's brave. Some would say it's a good action for people to stand up, because if the police have been pulled out, who is going to stand up to them? I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm working on that, okay? The other thing people said was, well, he did really well for being untrained. Are we sure he's untrained? He looked pretty darn trained to me. I know of a pair of 14-year-olds, twins, who have been to Tiger McKee's training class 4 times. So don't assume. Awful lot of assuming going on. 866-TALK-GUN. When we come back, a guy who taught almost 2,000 women to shoot in a single weekend. Welcome back. Tom Gresham here. 866-TALK-GUN will get you in here. A lot of people talk about, we ought to do something. I want to do something for gun rights. We ought to do something. They ought to do something. NRA ought to do something. Somebody ought to do something. Really? There's only us. There's just you and me. And a lot of people talk about it. And some people actually do something about it. And I have said for the 25 years I've been on the air here, if you want to do something really good for the Second Amendment, for gun rights, introduce people to shooting. Take somebody out shooting. Take them to the range. And, of course, the NSSF, National Shooting Sports Foundation, has the Step Outside program and the Plus One program, and basically ways to introduce people to get involved, so to help you take somebody to the range. Well, there's always an overachiever in the group. There's always somebody who says, well, I can do that, but I can do just a bit more than that. We're joined by Rick Ector. He's a friend. He's the instructor and owner of Detroit CCW, Legally Armed in Detroit. And he's just done an amazing thing a couple of weekends ago. Hey, Rick, how are you?
Hey, man, I am great. How are you today?
I am terrific. So, first of all, give them the headline. Give them the short version, what you did a couple of weekends ago.
Oh, man, I had a really incredible weekend. I had the opportunity to haul together a bunch of fellow firearms trainers and gun rights advocates to participate in my annual free training event for women. Long and short of it is we came together to give a range safety briefing and a free shooting lesson with all expenses paid, no gun rentals, no range time. Gun ammunition, we had targets. We had everything available, and they were one-on-one with the firearms instructor. We did that for just over 1,900 women in 2 days, so that was my first ever 2-day total. and I broke my single-day record on that Saturday, the 15th of August. Previously, I had trained a total of 814 women in one day. On this day, Saturday, August 15th, we trained 1,200 women how to load, operate, and safely discharge a firearm. So had a great weekend, man.
Unbelievable. So several questions. How long have you been doing this?
Bill, this is my 9th annual year of running this program specifically. I did it in its first iteration 9 years ago with an open call for women. I had no hard goal set in mind, and I successfully trained 50 women that first year, and I was a little down in the dumps because I thought more women would take me up on it. But a good friend of mine, Ken Blanchard, probably heard him, Black Man with a Gun, he told me to continue, man, and lo and behold, 9 years later, I'm doing almost 2,000 women in a weekend with a single-day record of 1,200 in one day. Very satisfying. Glad to know I was able to impact that many lives in a very short period of time.
Yeah, Ken Blanchard's a good guy. I guess I've known him for about 25 years, the whole length of time I've been on the air here. So why women? Why do you focus on women for this?
Well, truly because, man, they are more vulnerable than men. They tend to be smaller than we are. They tend to be not as strong as we are. They tend to be vulnerable, and in many cases, in vulnerable situations, there might be some person that wishes them physical harm, or whether it's a relationship gone bad, or maybe it's just a crime of opportunity where a bad guy is out on the prowl looking for someone to victimize, and odds are he's going to choose a woman. You know, just looking at some of the crime stats here in Detroit, I mean, that is a glaring observation. And the one crime that people don't talk about too much is rape, despite the hundreds of women who are sexually assaulted here in the Metro Detroit area and in the city of Detroit proper that no one talks about. So if I wanted to make a difference, I wanted to give women some tools to empower themselves.
What is generally the reaction you get? I mean, because I'm sure they come in with, some have some experience, some probably have very little, if and maybe even no experience. So what are you seeing as far as who comes in and the reaction they get after this?
You know, there's a huge cross-section of women who cross many demographics, you know, in terms of where they live, what politics they hold, the types of relationships they're involved in. The one thing that they really like about this program, and it goes back to the way I designed it, they wanted, you know, a entry-level introduction to the field of gun ownership and how to shoot a gun and how to use it, and the very beginnings of personal protection. And the thing is that they didn't have someone close to them to introduce them to the topic, and that there were no barriers to entry. It's totally free, come as you are. And it was an opportunity to learn more with no catches or strings involved. And to a person, they all love the program, and many come back in succeeding years and bring additional family and friends with them, and that is very rewarding. And just to look at the numbers of people we were able to help just a couple of weekends ago, it still blows my mind.
Do you have any idea how many of the women who've gone through your courses have ended up buying a gun?
Oh, I don't have any hard figures, man. You know, there are many women that actually buy a gun during the day of the event. So, you know, quite a few of them done that. Quite a few of them have subsequently signed up for concealed carry classes. But like I said, I do it all with no strings attached. This is the opportunity for women to see if this is a viable option to them. You know, there are so many wise tales and things that are said about guns that are simply not true. Well, why not try it for free? You know, it's like one of my favorite childhood stories, right? Sam I Am, Green Eggs and Ham. Just try it. You know, you may like it. And if you enjoy it, you know, by all means, there'll be more to be had.
You not only had to design just come up with the idea for this thing, but when it reaches this size, you're moving almost 2,000 women through there in 2 days. You have to create a whole system for literally keeping them moving and scheduling them, don't you?
Yeah, man, and it's just part of the evolution of this program. Back when I first started and there was only 50 people, you could pretty much tell them all to show up, at the same time. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time you go through 9 iterations of this program, now we're scheduling women on specific days for specific time frames. We engineer a process by which they get a mass briefing on fundamental safety and gun handling, and then they get automatically paired one-on-one with the firearms trainer. And then once that wave is done, we gently shoo them off the premises, and then a whole new wave of women come through. And it's really a marvel to behold. I mean, if you were an outsider looking in and you're like, wow, this thing is moving like a well-produced symphony, where people just come in, they get what they need, and they're ushered out in an orderly process, and we don't have a negative impact on the surrounding community of businesses and homes that are in the area. It's amazing what we do with zero impact to the community.
Amazing. Rick, I got a couple more questions for you, but I got to take a quick break here. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to do this, then we're going to come back. I want to ask Rick Ector just a couple of things. I know that you probably are asking the same thing. Rick Ector, I'm Detroit CCW, if you want to take a look at it. Legally armed in Detroit.com and DetroitCCW.com. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
Unmatched modularity, unprecedented accuracy, uncompromising reliability. It's easy to understand why 6 Hour's P320 is the official sidearm of all branches of the U.S. military. Available in multiple sizes and configurations, including the competition-ready X5 Legion, civilian versions of both the M17, M18, and now the new RXP versions featuring a mounted and zeroed Romeo 1 Pro reflex optic. So it's ready to shoot right out of the box. 6 Hour's P320. Never settle.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. shopguntalk.com.
This land, once wild and free, fades now from our memory. But I remember what it was like, what we were like, what we are capable of when we band together. Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. These natural wonders are where waterfowl begin their cycle of life, where the deer and the antelope play, and where we, the people, gather together to see and share what makes the outdoors so great. The time is now to band together with organizations like Ducks Unlimited. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
A passion for shooting and hunting has driven product innovation at Hodgdon Powder Company since 1947. Innovations like black powder substitutes, muzzle-loading pellets, and smokeless powder features like anti-copper fouling agents or temperature insensitivity. A family business from the beginning, Hodgdon Powder Company is the largest U.S. supplier of smokeless, black powder, and black powder substitute propellants distributed under the Hodgdon, IMR, Winchester, Pyrodex, 777, and GoX brands. Hodgdon Powder Company, the gunpowder people.
All right, we're back. We're talking with Rick Ector. He is instructor and owner at Detroit CCW, legally armed in Detroit. He just taught almost 2,000 women to shoot in over a weekend. Rick, one of the questions I have is, I'm just looking at the way you have grown this thing in 9 years. Surely you have ideas about how to scale this, maybe doing it in more than one location. What are you working on?
Yeah, this year was my first foray into actually scaling it, and we did it on different locations in the same weekend. I'm looking at doing it now in more locations simultaneously here locally in Michigan. I'm looking to go across the state. And interestingly enough, based on my contact and my association with people both in the National Rifle Association and at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, man, I had a bunch of guys come in from out of state who actually helped me do this year's iteration from California, Washington State, Ohio. Some cats from Florida came in. You know, I'm looking at scaling it by actually taking this show on the road, man. And a lot of people over the years have been asking me, well, man, show me how to do this. And, you know, I've had numerous discussions with them and nothing came of it. So if I can't reproduce myself, then I figure the next best way to throw this thing outside of Michigan is for me to just pack up and just go on a tour across the country and bring this event to major cities and major venues all over.
That kind of leads me to the logical question. So I know there are people listening thinking, hey, I want to help with something like that. So how can people help you with what you're doing?
Man, it's very easy. One thing I would say is to ask these people to connect with me on social media on most sites such as YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Rick Ector, RICKECTOR. I run my blog, Legally Armed in Detroit. If you're able to offer your skills and talents with firearms, definitely we want you to be a volunteer. And if you just love what we're doing, man, by all means, look us out on PayPal, info@DetroitCCW, or whatever payment program that you like to utilize to support us. Look us up and financially make a contribution, man. But I'm looking to scale this thing both within Michigan and across the country. I'm looking at Ohio because it's like next door, but then I have a lot of friends over in the state of Florida, man. And, I think Florida will be my second stop.
Well, I love what you're doing. Don't stop. Just keep expanding it. You're doing great work. I appreciate it. And won't be able to see you. We're not doing the real Gun Rights Policy Conference. We are doing it online this year, and it'll be a really cool virtual deal. But then when we get back together, I look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Same here, man. And like one thing I do want to make sure that I make mention of before I go, man. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be on your show. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me tell everybody about our program, how they can help. And, man, I look forward to seeing you in person at the next major live conference.
Sounds good. I'm just going to say for me and for everybody else, I'm going to turn it right back around. Thank you for what you're doing. You're showing the way, you're leading us, and you're showing us it can be done. Rick Ector, thank you so much. You take care, my friend.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
All righty. Yeah, man, isn't that cool? Wow, more than 1,900 women. Now, here's the thing. Yes, women are more vulnerable. Yes, women are more likely to be victims of crime, but there's another benefit here. I know you're already ahead of me, right? Women are the decision makers a lot of times in families. And when the woman in the family, particularly mother, becomes a gun owner, becomes a shooter, it's not automatic, but it's possible that the politics on gun rights changes. Maybe not a change in party. That's not even necessary, really. But the conversation changes. So now they're not talking about those gun owners. They're talking about us gun owners. They're not talking about those people who got a gun for self-protection, but they're talking about we people who now own a gun for self-protection. Now that is outreach. That is outreach with power. If you want to be a part of that and help out, you might just look up Rick Ector, RICKECTOR, on all the social media outlets. We'll continue talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Love to get your take on it. 866-TALK-GUN. Good, bad, indifferent? What do you think he's going to be in for the next couple of years? Okay, so over on Twitter, we had a conversation about ankle holster. The guy says, it doesn't work very well when you're wearing shorts. And I said, well, that's easy. Just if you wear Bermuda shorts, no one will even notice that you're wearing an ankle holster. So there's always that. Our number is 866-TALK-GUN, and that will certainly get you in there. I'm Tom Gresham, if you don't know. Over at guntalk.com, you can follow all of the things we do. We also, let's see, what did we just do? Something. Oh, that's right. We have, if you go to, oh shoot, I'll have to look it up again. We just put up our favorite gear and stuff that we have over at Amazon. You know, basically we got a whole bunch of people at Gun Talk Media who really like guns and hunting and shooting and all that kind of stuff. And so we people always ask us, well, what do you think? What about this? What about that? We say, well, we'll just put together a list of the stuff we like. And so we put it over on Amazon, and that's, makes it easy for everybody to pick it up there. And of course, we're trying to do everything we can to get good stuff into people's hands. So if you go over to Amazon.com, I think it's /Gun Talk Media, we'll get you there. We'll get you that information as we go along here. The Kyle Rittenhouse story. What makes it interesting is we have all this video, and people are doing screenshots, basically frame-by-frame analysis, not since the Zapruder film, you have to be old enough to remember that one, has video/film been analyzed so closely. Of course, all that will be entered into evidence. He will be, I'm sure, be tried. Don't know if they're going to stick with the first-degree murder charge. Chances are they'll end up dropping that down. They'll certainly offer him some kind of plea agreement. I hope he doesn't take it, because I think he will be able to justify everything that happened. There's the complication of him choosing to go there with a gun. Was it legal? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I know the whole 17-year-old deal. That's going to take some explaining. It's going to take a good attorney, but probably legal for him to be there. Wise? I'm not sure. Could have turned out that he ends up getting killed, beaten to death with a skateboard. Could have gotten shot in the head by the guy who had the gun and pointed his pistol at Kyle Rittenhouse's head. He's alive today because he made some good choices once it all happened. He actually used his rifle in a capable manner. He was careful about his muzzle. He was careful about trigger finger discipline. He shot only the people who were trying to kill him. But that doesn't mean it couldn't have gone south. When you insert yourself into a riot, into a war zone, stuff happens and you are not in control. Clearly he was not in control of this thing. I guess I would offer that be slow to draw conclusions on these kinds of things. There's the 72-hour rule, maybe even a 1-week rule to say, okay, I'm going to wait for a lot of information to come in, especially if you're going to start posting things. And by the way, everything that this kid ever put on the internet will be poured over by the prosecutors. That is exactly the same that's going to happen to you if you ever get into one of these things. A shooting of any type. Be circumspect about what you put on the internet. Everything you post, I want you to look at it and say, how would this sound if it is read aloud in a courtroom? But it's my right. Yeah, I know your right. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. But the internet is forever, and what you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So when you start to post stuff about, he had it coming, just imagine that being read by a prosecutor or making you read it on the stand. Just things to think about. It's complicated. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we go along. If you'd like to be a part of that, give me a call right now, 866-TALK-GUN. What's your take on this whole thing?